All right, we got another episode of Tailwind. Today we're joined by Paul Doucet. Paul, what are some of the highlights people should know about you before we dive into our conversation?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Austin. So I'm excited to be here. Paul Doucet, I run a Sandler Training Center here in Toronto, Canada, and really excited to join the podcast and share what I can that hopefully will be of value to some of your listeners.
Yeah, excited to have you on it. So before we started recording, we mentioned cold calling it being the ultimate pattern disrupt. Tell me more about that.
Nobody expects to receive phone calls out of nowhere anymore. Back in the days, it was common. These days, people use social media, texting is
Hmm.
super prevalent, especially among younger generations, and emails and other forms of electronic communications are much more common. So getting a phone call out of nowhere from someone who then is able to engage with you in a productive way, in a no pressure way that kind of draws you in and doesn't just repel you and push you away with slimy sales tactics
Hmm.
can be refreshing, can be a surprise. People, the point of a pattern interrupt in the first place anyway is to say something or do something that's totally unexpected and forces someone to engage. So
Hmm.
to set the scene on that, one of the classic examples is like the situation in a retail store. You go in, you're looking at, let's say, a wall full of shoes, and that salesperson comes over to you from the side. You already know what they're going to say. They're going to say, what are they going to say, Austin? You know.
What size you look, or what size are you? What shoe
Or
can I
yeah,
get
or
you?
just can I help you find anything or
Yeah,
whatever, right? And before they even say that, you already know what you're going to answer. You're going to say, I'm good, I'm just looking, right?
yeah.
This is a pattern. This is a pattern that's repeated itself a trillion times. So
Hmm.
what you want to do with a pattern interrupt is say something completely unexpected and kind of catch someone off guard so that they have to use their prefrontal cortex, right, to actually think about what they're going to say to respond and not just respond in an almost subconscious way. So a pattern interrupt is anything that you might do or say that forces someone to react and doesn't allow their unconscious brain to do all the heavy lifting.
Hmm.
Calling someone these days is so unexpected for a lot of people anyway that it acts as a pattern interrupt. There's a ton of other benefits to doing it. So, for example, everyone has a cookbook full of different prospecting activities.
Yeah.
Cold calling should be part of it, even if the only reason is that you're going to reach people that way that you would never otherwise have the opportunity to ever interact with. And even if it's a very low percentage of those people who actually answer, who actually engage with you, it's still the only way you're ever going to reach that set of people. If you take an abundance mindset, an abundance mentality, you'll never run out of people to reach out to and call. But there's only so many people you can ever meet at a networking event. There's only so many people you can ever meet by being introduced to them or other
Hmm.
means. So cold calling is used to supplement that and get you at least a chance to interact with all those other people who may fit your target client profile, who you never otherwise have a chance to to meet. It also, one of the benefits I love about it is that it removes any pretense of why we're having a conversation in the first place.
Hmm.
So if we meet, say, at a networking event, Austin, and you and I are just chit-chatting, are you selling to me? Am I selling to you? Are we both helping each other out? Or what's going on here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And sometimes we just make friends. And depending on your disc style, it may be that you're a very gregarious person. You love to make friends with everybody. Same as me.
yeah.
So it may be really unclear. But if I call you and I tell you, look, this is a cold sales call. I'm sure you hate getting these as much as I hate making them. Give me 30 seconds. I'll tell you why I'm calling. After that, if you want to hang up on me politely, that's fine. Or we can have a couple, or we can have a couple minutes conversation.
Hmm.
What do you think? Is that fair enough? Most people are going to say yes to that.
Yeah.
I've interrupted the pattern by being disarmingly honest and drawn you in and removed any pretense that this call is about anything other than let me see if I'm selling you something that you might want. So
Yeah.
no pretense about it. It's very clear what the purpose is. Another benefit of it, it's a great way to get reps. It's a great way to get practice
Hmm.
delivering your elevator pitch, delivering your 30-second commercial, and talking to someone who you've never talked to before. It gets you uncomfortable in a really good way, right? People hate to do it, but you build that resilience up by getting a lot of no's. You're going to get a lot of rejection doing it without any doubt. It's definitely going to happen.
Yeah.
So it allows you to get uncomfortable, to build up that thick skin, that emotional resilience that you want to have. And the last thing that's really interesting, and before I hand back to you, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much here, Austin, but
No,
the
this is
last
great.
thing that
This
I
is
think
great.
is okay, that's really great about cold calling is this. You never know where it might lead. So I might talk to someone and, on paper, they may meet my ICP, my ideal client profile. But I talk to them and they don't. For whatever reason, they just don't. Okay. They don't meet it. So we'll always ask the question, well, maybe there's someone you can introduce me to, or maybe you know someone else who would like to have a conversation with someone like me. and it can go a million different directions. I called a guy named Steve one time, for example, and this was what happened. He had taken Sandler in the past. He already knew Sandler. He loved Sandler. He was very positive about it. So after talking to him for a while, excuse me, we had a great conversation. And at the end of it, he was like, "Look, I'm not really in a position to like look at this for my business, especially because I did it for 5 years already."
Yeah.
Okay, fine. But he goes, I do know some people who haven't done it before and who may be interested. So let me put you in touch with a few people. He put me in touch with a lady named Janice. Janice invited me out to a lunch that they put on weekly. I met her husband, Chris, at that event, at the lunch. Great guy. We had a couple of calls. He invited me to play squash. I played squash with him and a guy called Henry. And then Henry introduced me to some other people after that who, hopefully will now, possibly become clients. So you just never know where it might lead, right?
Yeah.
And it's just all kinds of tentacles that can grow from a good cold call. So there's lots of just lots of interesting permutations that can come from it. So there's no point in discounting it as a part of your cookbook.
Yeah. I mean, I love the stories of like, yeah, I just called somebody and then 10 years later, this is a
Yeah.
result of like what happened there. Eric Myers, another Sandler trainer, and he's out of Michigan. And his one of his first hires was somebody that he'd cold called out of like an expired Chamber of Commerce book. And it's like, there's no reason to pick up an expired Chamber of Commerce book, but he went and did it. And then he just started calling people. And now, I would assume they're friends. I'm gonna go with that. Now he has a friend that he's had for the last 10, 15 years because he just picked up the phone and called a stranger, to some
Yeah.
degree. So you mentioned there's, networking, there's all these other activities, but the people that you cold call, you're not gonna be able to access otherwise, other than using the cold call. Are you deliberate in that construction of saying, these people are all chamber members. I go to all the chamber events, so I'm never going to cold call other chamber members, as like an example of way to say like I'm only going to cold call people that I wouldn't have access to otherwise, or are you just kind of like, yeah, it's not too big a deal to overlap between those two environments?
If I call someone who's a member of the chamber, it's a different type of call.
Yeah,
So I do go to the chamber events and I do know some people there. I wouldn't cold call people who were at the chamber event in the same way. I might call them,
yeah,
but normally because I had met them or maybe they had attended something that I spoke at or something like this, and I had some other reason so it was a little bit warm. I'd call it a warm call at that point.
hmm,
Um, but otherwise, I wouldn't really call someone who I knew from the chamber, I knew was part of the chamber because I knew I'd have another way to meet them that you have to be realistic when it comes to cold calls, right? Is that it's
yeah,
kind of the least effective way to reach someone
yeah,
and build trust with someone. You can have techniques that can help you for sure, but it's still the least effective way compared to meeting someone in person where you have a far greater chance of climbing that no like trust staircase
yeah,
and getting to the point of developing trust. Face to face in person is a far more powerful way to move yourself up that staircase towards trust than a cold call is.
yeah,
So I wouldn't waste a cold call in a sense on someone who I'd have a chance to meet in person.
yeah. So what are you doing to be deliberate with the decision? Like, an ICP is an ICP, but then how are you filtering out between who you're going to do what for?
A lot of it has to do with segmenting by industry,
Hmm.
segmenting by business type, segmenting by size, right? Size of organization, revenue, employee count, things like that. So, uh, segmenting based on those things as well as based on location and what organizations or associations that might be a part of is probably the main way that we go about kind of differentiating those things. Yeah, and being deliberate about that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. What does your segmenting look like? Like, what would that look like on your end?
Trades, tech, professional services at the high level.
Hmm.
So trades, I use that word in a very broad sense to include pretty much anything that's blue collar, whether it's construction, landscaping, manufacturing, engineering, whatever it may be, or components thereof. So, I mean, you could be representing a bunch of manufacturers who do lighting or who do landscape or who do metering, for example, is another one. So
Yeah.
there's all kinds of different inputs to construction projects that general contractors need to buy from, or uh, building owners need to buy from for say for rental properties or condo associations buy from and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of different ways that it breaks down. when we talk about trades. And there's a lot of individuals who run their own kind of shops. They're just independent trades, people who want to be able to close more deals and better deals, higher margin deals, and that kind of thing. Tech is its own category because there's an endless number of things below that header. So there's everything from serious tech, meaning like, high-end AI developers, to people who simply consult and utilize tech in different ways that can be almost like a consultative sale to an organization, or who even just do things like they help companies manage their tech, like
Mhm.
IT ex uh, BPO IT organizations like who do tech support on a fractional basis. Or there can be organizations that say build and host websites on a server that they own on behalf of a lot of different companies. And then in the professional services, that could be accounting, insurance, or any other kind of input um, to organizations where they're selling services again on a fractional or consultative basis.
Yeah. And then are you just cold calling one of those industries, or is it more of a revenue size and location or like revenue employee count and location that then puts them into your cold calling bucket?
Yeah. So what I try to do is, so one thing about cold calling, right? There's a serious mindset aspect to doing it, right? So when
Yeah.
you're doing it as an activity, it can be tough. It can be repetitive. It can be it can be trying on your constitution.
I know those feelings.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So you want to do it in short spurts. That's one thing. And you'll want to do it so that as you're going through a spurt of cold calling, like say a half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour of just like straight up calling, dialing, you want to find as much consistency as you can in the group that you're calling out to. So
Mhm.
all tech companies for an hour. And then maybe the next day I'll do a full hour of trades companies. And then the next day a full hour of professional services company, for example, right? This kind of thing
Yeah.
can be a great way to, because then it removes the part of it where you have to adjust on every call. So if on
Mhm.
every call you need to make some tweaks and adjustments in your head about how to approach what to say, then it taxes you a little bit more, right? But if you can be consistent and stay with the program through it, industry by industry, then it can help a little bit to make that an easier effort mentally, right? And keep you
Yeah.
more on track. Yeah.
And yeah, and so I mean that makes a ton of sense. I do the same thing because I can't context switch. It's like the value that when I'm talking to somebody about something, it's so dependent on their, how they fit into like our segments. I can't do
Sure.
it. Like I just can't switch it. I have to like be in one
Yeah.
and then I have to like stop and be like, all right, now I
Yeah.
have to reconsider my head. And if I was swapping back and forth between each call, I would get it would just become a blubbery mess. And I'm already a beginner at cold calling, so I have to take out as many obstacles as possible.
What's your pattern interrupt, Austin? Can I ask you?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I always lead with, did I catch you in the middle of something or you have a second to talk about? And then I say whatever is going to be relevant to them. So
Okay.
for some folks, I'm like, hey, do you have a second to talk about growing your book of business? For other folks, it's, consistency or accountability or, kind of just kind of depends on who I'm talking to and what I've learned.
Okay.
The other one I like to say is just straight up, I'm cold calling you, and then, do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one works really well. Disarming honesty is a powerful thing,
Yeah,
right?
and I think enough people have the experience of like a cold call and they understand that it's difficult, that they can be like, hey, if you're just being upfront with me and you're giving me an opportunity to say yes or no to the rest of the conversation, it just becomes really easy for them to feel like they're in control instead of just being like word vomited at instead.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I think part of it too is, and I've been getting some of these cold calls where they just start talking. They just dive right into here's the reason I'm calling you. Don't give me, and I'm like, I'm trying so hard to be polite and tell you I'm not interested, and you're just
Yeah.
not giving me the chance. And it's like, just give me the chance just to be like, hey, I understand the value of what you're doing, but also not good timing for us, and then be
Right.
done with it. Um,
Not a good strategy. Not a good strategy. It's got to be a conversation.
yeah, I mean, maybe it works at a high enough volume, but
Maybe.
yeah,
We like to have a little something we call a mini upfront contract.
yeah,
So this is essentially where you get permission to use 30 seconds of someone's time to
hmm
basically deliver them as here's an overview of what we do.
yeah,
Um, if you get that permission, I think I kind of demonstrated one early on, which is
yep,
like, I give you the super quick version, should take 30 seconds. After that, it's totally up to you if you just politely hang up on me or if we talk for a couple of minutes. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
This is very, very easy for someone to say yes to. And it's kind of hard to say no to. I mean, it's you've picked up the phone, we're talking. I'm clearly not
Yeah.
scamming you. I'm just, so it's very easy to just, okay, sure, give me the 30-second version and I'll decide.
Yeah.
But also there's a psychological thing going on where you're telling someone they're going to need to make a decision in 30 seconds. So
Hmm.
that's now implanted in their mind. They're going to have to decide something very soon. So they're going to listen and be thinking about what that decision is going to be. And if the decision is, you know what, this isn't relevant for me, that's perfectly fair. No problem. Have a great day. Thanks for the 30 seconds. Appreciate it. Goodbye. If
Hmm.
they say, well, yeah, that does resonate and some of that stuff applies to us from what I shared, then maybe we have a conversation and who knows where it might go.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on, trying to limit the amount of time spent on that first call?
Yeah, I agree with it
Yeah.
because yeah, I've had some cold calls that go way too long. Some
Hmm.
people just enjoy getting called, they enjoy talking,
Yeah.
and they just want to share about their business, and they go on and on and on. I had one, my longest one ever lasted 25 minutes. I just couldn't get off the phone,
Yeah.
and it led nowhere. It led nowhere ultimately. It was
Oh,
ultimately a waste of 25 minutes. But
yeah.
um, yeah, I think it's good to have the goal. The sweet spot is probably that you don't want anything less than 3 or 4 minutes if you want it to be a successful call. And probably don't want it to be more than like 7 or 8. Like, so the sweet spot's kind of somewhere in there. The idea being the goal of a cold call is to book a meeting.
Hmm.
So it's not to close business. That's not going to happen off a cold call.
Yeah.
Book a meeting, right? So in order to do that, you have to get a little bit of a pain conversation. You have to get a little bit of understanding, share a little bit about what you do so they know what this is. They can see where there's at least the theoretical fit here and that their issues are something that you do and that it's worth their time to invest a little bit of time with you in a further conversation. And that's all you're trying to achieve by it is book a meeting for a further conversation.
Yeah.
So spending more time than that in order just to book another conversation eventually is not a good use of time anymore. So beyond 7 or 8 minutes becomes tricky.
Yeah. Do you have any tips or tricks for like making sure you're keeping them prompt and like getting to the next step without boiling the ocean in the first call?
Yeah, I like the term boil the ocean. I used to use that a lot too. Um,
I was doing it
yeah.
and somebody called me out for doing it. So that's why I have to keep reminding
Oh,
myself,
okay.
don't boil the ocean on the first call.
Right.
Just get to the first meeting.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of knowing exactly when you're going to interject
Mhm.
politely, of course, and say, let me make a suggestion. Let's take out our calendars and find a time where we can continue this
Yeah.
conversation more fully, right? We're only on the phone right now. It'd be good to be able to either be face to face or at least be on a Zoom meeting like this one in
Yeah.
order to be able to talk more human to human than a phone call is. But I think having a bit of assertiveness is key. You
Hmm.
can't be mother may I all the time. You have
Yeah.
to be a little bit assertive and be willing to interrupt if you have to, right? Like if it's really going on too long, it's not in your interest anymore. I think it's important to be able to do that in a way that isn't perceived as rude, but just as being assertive in a professional way,
Yeah.
right? And if you can do that and say, look, let me make a suggestion. I'm looking at my calendar here. I got a little bit of time next Tuesday morning. If you do, maybe I could pop out to your offices and we could sit down and talk about this more.
Yeah.
Would that make sense? You know? The other important thing, Austin, is that when you do book a meeting from a cold call like that, it's important that you post sell it a bit,
Hmm.
right? So you don't want someone to book a meeting and then just never show up to the meeting and they've just done it because they're too nice to say no to you on the phone.
Yeah.
And they just say, oh, sure, sure. Put me in for Tuesday. That's fine. You need to have some way of getting them to further confirm that they will be there. So sometimes it's getting them to send the meeting invite that can help, or it's just getting them to confirm, like, is there anything that could happen between now and then that would mean that you wouldn't be able to make it? Bring the future into the present a little bit and say, oh, okay, well, and then they might tell you, "Yeah, there's always a chance that if this new deal closes for me, then I might not have time. I'll be too busy by Tuesday. No problem. Would it make sense to meet the following week then? So there's a better chance that you can make it and post sell that. So like you really interrogate the yes a little bit and don't just let them say yes, goodbye, but interrogate the yes a little bit to get them to confirm and reconfirm and talk about what could go wrong between now and then.
Yeah.
That could scupper the whole thing.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that clarification because I was gonna be like, oh, like send an email to confirm with them, but it's like, no, 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 do not hang up the phone without the that
Mm.
additional post selling. to make sure they're showing up. That's
It's
good.
so easy to kind of just get happy ears about the yes, you know? I got a yes.
Oh,
Hey,
I
let
know
me get
that
out of here
feeling.
before I screw it up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I know exactly that feeling. Like, ah, I sent the calendar invite, I'm all good. And then not even taking into consideration. It's like, just because you sent the calendar invite doesn't mean the person's showing up.
Exactly. Exactly.
I really like that. Well, hey, we had an upfront contract before we started this episode that I would let you go at the half hour mark. We are hitting that half hour mark. Before we end this, though, any final summation or final thoughts that kind of like wrap up, what we had a conversation around?
Only to say, if anyone out there listening to this, don't fool yourself into thinking that nobody's going to pick up the phone. And don't let any head trash you may have about you're not the kind of person that someone's going to want to talk to or anything like that. Or the phone is lava and you're terrified to make the first call.
Yeah,
Just make a few calls, get some no's. You're going to get a lot of no's, and it's totally okay. You just keep going. So keep your mindset strong and stay resilient, but don't fool yourself into think that it doesn't work at all because it does work.
yeah, yeah. As someone who used to feel like the phone was lava, just making the calls and getting used to it happens. It'll just happen as
Yeah,
a natural process for it. Paul, I
definitely.
really appreciate you taking the time. Love the insights on cold calling. Totally agree with you that it's the best pattern to interrupt right now. I don't respond to any cold emails I get. I do respond to cold calls that I get. So
Right.
100% with you. All right. Appreciate you, Paul.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Austin. Take care.